another one of my top 5 PGA DFS videos of the week. These are little short form videos to get you some useful information to help you make certain lineups, specifically in the value one, you may want to be focusing on cash lineups for those. For this one here, top sleepers, certainly want to be focusing on those GPP lineups. And of course, my top 5 fades, probably a little mixture of both. Fade a little maybe in cash, but more so in the GPP format. So anyways, we're going to focus on my top 5 PGA DFS sleepers for the week. And with a full field here scheduled for the Sony Open, we're going to have a plethora of options to go from in terms of lower owned. Where last week, there were only a few golfers that were under 10% owned. Michael Thompson ended up being one of them, Richy Werenski. And maybe that name that I just said might be in this video here. But for the second straight week, Collin Morikawa is going to be in it. As we go for a little bit of a review, I do 5, of course, each and every week. Patrick Cantlay, he failed to meet up to expectations, even at 9,800, coming in with 98 points. He was about half the ownership of Xander Schauffele, but scored about 30 points less DraftKings points, so was not a great pick. Collin Morikawa was a good pick. Sungjae Im, he was an awesome pick, 13% owned, and ended up being one of the top 5 scorers. 2 bottom-end picks, though, Andrew Lange and Mackenzie Hughes, were less than appealing. But we're going to bounce back this week with those picks. I'm going to start off with Collin Morikawa. 9% owned this week, 10,600. That tends to happen with him when he gets higher priced. And it seems like most people just want to trust Harris English in the run of form that he's on. Totally makes sense. I understand it. But at 9% owned, you're getting a ton of leverage. These guys are some of the best golfers in the world. And I can't imagine that every single time they tee it up, Harris English is going to take Collin Morikawa to the woodshed. So for about a third of the ownership, Collin Morikawa over 10,000 would be my guy under 10% owned. You also have Hideki Matsuyama coming in here at 10,000 and likely under-owned as well. Course history for Morikawa, he came in 21st here last year and did not play the year before. Recent form, 7th last week, as I mentioned, and a 10th before that. Stroke gain power ranks, if you were with me last week, you know that he's really struggled putting, but around the green, he's been good. 13th, 30th on his approaches this year, and 89th off the tee. Again, those numbers will likely improve after the Sony Open and last week's 2 starts once I do my next update. Okay, the next golfer we're going to talk about is Matt Kuchar. $8,400 this week on DraftKings. Maybe that's why his ownership is only coming in at 5% owned. A former winner of the Sony Open. Plus a miscut mixed in there as well last year, but the year before he came in first. He's seen a little bit of an uptick in his form. He came in 37th in his last start, much better than he had been playing, which was a miscut before that. But Kuchar's really gone through a bit of a regression. You can see from the strokes gained power ranks, 191st off the tee, 116th on the approach, 145 around the green. And you would think a guy like Kuchar, one of the best putters on tour, or at least historically, not so much this year, 95th. You can see that's why his results not doing it very well at all. But 5% owned, you only have to go 10% to get 2x. I think that's a pretty good opportunity to get a good sleeper in Matt Kuchar. Plus, he's a former winner here, so we know he can make his way around the course. All right, the third golfer is the ever volatile and confusing Erik van Rooyen. Erik van Rooyen, the tall, talented South African, just earned membership on the PGA Tour, similarly to how William Gordon and others got it. He'll be playing under that non-member category, which will get him in a lot of PGA Tour starts, plus his status in the world will also get him into WGC. So set up for a big year is Erik van Rooyen in terms of what tournaments he can play in. 2% owned. Here's a guy, it's a weird little recent form. 14th at the ending tournament in Dubai for the European Tour Championship. But he withdrew from the Masters due to an injury. So don't know what's going on there or if you're just frustrated. Not sure. One would think you don't want to withdraw from your first Masters, but Erik van Rooyen did. This will be his first trip out to Oahu, normally known for his power hitting. Maybe this course isn't really suited for him, or at least gamers don't think so. Maybe they think his price is a little too inflated. Regardless, 2% owned. I mean, man, you can get 5x just by going 10% there. No stats accumulated yet for Erik van Rooyen in terms of strokes gained, but of course, after a couple of starts, he will be on there as well. Next golfer I'm going to talk about is one that gets super hot with his putter, and if he does this week, you can expect him to be inside the top 20. So at 3% owned in 7,300, that is pretty good value if that's what ends up happening. And I'm talking about JT Poston. He has missed the cut here last year, didn't putt well. Year before that, though, came in 20th, so certainly something to look forward to. His recent form, however, is not. He had a brutal first start at Augusta, talked about it, said that, maybe a little too amped up to play, and then a letdown at the RSM Classic the following week. So a little bit out of form, so maybe that's contributing to this 3% owned. But as you can see from his strokes gained putting ranks, 23rd. I mean, one of the best on tour. Plus, his approaches have been much better this year, ranked 49th. So at a course that is only going to have the entire field hit maybe 60% of its fairways, his off-the-tee numbers, which you can see are 208th, those should be mitigated here this week. He can pipe it out there a bit. Driving distance isn't that much, but driving it, he's just not that great driver of the golf ball, and you really don't need to be here. So JT Poston in play, 7,300 at 3% owned. Okay, my last sleeper of the week, we saw him play last week, is Richy Werenski, $6,800 this week and 2% owned. We saw him play very well out at Kapalua. Plus, it looks like his irons were in form. So, as you can see, they've been a struggle. 185th this year. They looked much better last year. We know he's a pretty good putter, ranked 86th, also had a good putting week. But his off the tee has been the struggle. And as I just mentioned with JT Poston, if it's not going to hurt Poston, it likely won't hurt Werenski. Plus, he's got a leg up, of course, already being in Maui last week. He's got the rust shaken off and scoring almost 100 DraftKings points. You can't be out of form and do that, even if it is on an easy golf course like Kapalua. I like Richy Werenski this week, 2% owned at $6,800. So just a recap here very quickly. Colin Morikawa will be my over 10,000 sleeper pick this week at 9% owned. Matt Kuchar will be my first sleeper pick in the 8,000 range, coming in at 5% owned. Eric Van Rooyen, the ever volatile guy, 2% owned. JT Poston, 7,300 at 3% owned. And finished off with Richy Werenski at 2% owned. So thank you so much for coming by. One of my PGA DFS top 5 videos, of course. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Just in case you might miss one of these, if you go to your notification bar, you'll be able to pick it up right away. So a great tool to access all of the awesome content that we put out here on Awesemo.com on the YouTube channel. And of course, if you're looking for more, check out my top 5 fades video coming up. Well, I'm recording this at about 2 o'clock on Tuesday. You'll see that tomorrow, my top 5 fades. And of course, my top 5 values are already live, so check that out now. Thanks again for joining, and good luck this week with the Sony Open. And we will see you next week for the American Express Championship. Cheers, everybody.